back to the Priya Show with your lovely host, me, Priya. Today's topic we'll be discussing the post-classical period. Although the Byzantine, China, India, and Islamic world's architecture was quite different in shape and design. All four regions, art involves religion in some way. To get started, let's introduce our guests for the evening, Emily Hughes and Brianna Aguirre, and with their insights on the arts and architecture of the post-classical era.
Yay! How are you today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Nice to meet you guys. Hello.
Hey. Welcome, both of you here tonight.
Thank you.
So let's start this off with comparing Islam and India. What are some facts about them? What makes them different, similar? Enlighten me.
Well, let's see. Overall, Islam and India are to a certain degree similar for Islamic architectural forms. For instance, an exquisite tomb, which is built in 1622 at Arga, was designed entirely of white marble, encrusted with stones. It's a superb example of Islamic and Hindu blending characteristics. But furthermore, Islam and China are rather contrasting, as the Islamic Arab overlords decide to treat both Hindu and Buddhists as protected people of the book, despite the fact that their faiths had no connection to the Bible.
Wow, how fascinating. Anything to add, Ms. Hughes?
Well, yes, in fact, the Islamic world was heavily similar to the Byzantine Empire in that both forbid the use of images. A major example was iconoclasm in Europe, which spread and affected other empires as well.
Not only was iconoclasm an art problem, this was intertwined with religion as well religiously. The use of icons were forbidden, but the church continued to support the creation of them. Soon the Islamic position of rejecting and destroying idolatrous images was supported and spread throughout Europe.
To extend on the differences of Islam and Byzantine in Europe, the architecture resembled Greco-Roman architecture and used dome-shaped buildings, while Islamic used horseshoe arches and columns.
Since this discussion is getting heated, let's take a short break.
A forest of graceful arches fills the interior of the mosque at Cordoba in Spain. The style of architecture can be seen over a large area that includes the entire Iberian Peninsula and much of North Africa. Such an architectural feat in an area on the furthest fringe of the Islamic world illustrates the depth and expansive power of Muslim civilization. It also dramatically demonstrates the engineering skill and refined aesthetic sensibilities of Muslim architects and their wealthy patrons.
The Byzantine Empire developed a distinctively styled religious art, adapted from early Roman paintings, styles and conveying the solemnity of the holy of faith.
Cathedral of St. Dimitri, built in the late 12th century in Kiev, at the height of Russia's post-classical prosperity in trade and interaction with Byzantium. The church used a Byzantine classical style, but adopted it to Russian customs, including fewer resources and possibly less architectural experience. Although the towers were topped by characteristic Orthodox domes, there was no major central dome, as in the great churches in Constantinople.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Let's chat with Brianna and get inside facts, beginning with ostentatious China.
And ostentatious China it is, Priya, especially intriguing in arts. China has a very artistic background, as for example, landscape painting. Just the simplicity of composition, the use of empty space, the emphasis on nature. Chinese landscaping painting was mainly in black or brown ink. Poems mainly described scenes and related empty space as well, like in the Song Dynasty, very much expressing ideas of people individually, intended for the pleasure and edification of all peoples.
My enthrallment. Say, Emily, what do you have to say about China as opposed to Islam? Perhaps maybe a connection as well?
Well, I suppose I can broach this subject, Priya. Let's see, China and Islam are similar in that both appreciate religious art, and they use sculptures and mosaics to convey religious messages. In the Islamic heartlands, the mosque is seen as a symbol, and the religious art helps convey the religion. In China, sculptures of Buddha or other religious figures were seen as key items in expressing their art and unique culture.
Any differences between these two civilizations?
Why, yes, of course. Islam believed that human and animal images were forbidden according to the Quran. China did not agree with this. Rather, they did paint landscapes and other images of art.
This keeps getting more and more interesting with each civilization, and we'll be right back after this short message. The spread of Islam and the importance of trade in Africa are represented by the Great Mosque of Janneh.
Built in 1626 at Agra, this exquisite tomb of white marble encrusted with semi-precious stones is a superb example of blending of Islamic and Hindu architecture forms, building materials, and artistic motifs. Although this structure was built centuries after the first Muslims entered India, from the outset this blending of traditions was evident.
The prominent roles played by women at the Japanese imperial court centers are evident in this painting, illustrating one of the episodes in Lady Muraki's Tale of Genji. The painting also captures the intensely inward-looking character of court life that gradually cut the emperor and his entourage off from the warriors, townspeople, and the peasants they ruled. The growing isolation of the court provided opportunities for regional lords with a more military orientation and more effective links to the population as a whole to eventually seize effective control over Japan.
Mosaics in Ravenna, Italy, from the early period of the Byzantine Empire, illustrate some of the highest achievements of Byzantine religious art and provide a dazzling, ornate environment for worship. This mosaic features a rather militant Christ the Redeemer. Notice the characteristic Christian assertion of human dominance over nature. The richness and vitality of urban life in the Islamic world in the Abbasid age and later eras are wonderfully captured in the 16th century Persian illustration from the Kamsa, 5 poems of Nizami. Nizami gives us a bird's-eye view of a rather typical night in one of the scene's great palaces of Baghdad. The multiple scenes vividly capture the bustle and high artistry of the splendid decorated rooms and gardens, from a group of musicians serenading a man who is presumably the lord of the mansion, to kitchen servants buying food and preparing to serve it to the lord and his guests.
Before we conclude the show today, let's discuss a rather uncommon but extraordinary comparison. Say, Brianna, could you share your knowledge of Byzantine Empire in association with India?
Certainly. While India's paintings included scenes from nature, the Byzantine paintings included icons. But connecting with India, India had paintings in stained glass, similar to the Byzantines' colored mosaics. Both simultaneously used bright colors.
Would you say the Byzantine were alike or diverse compared to China?
Why, both indeed. China allowed images, but Byzantine had iconoclasm featuring Greco-Roman architecture. As well, in contrast, Chinese art and literature focused on the everyday life rather than religious messages like the Byzantines.
All 4 civilizations, architecture was different in shapes and design, like domes and arcs. They all share one similarity, the connection between their art and religion, while Islam referred back to the Quran. The Byzantine used their belief system, Christianity, to create their specific form of art. This which led to the spread of iconoclasm throughout Europe. Taoism in China influenced their art by depicting nature scenes, which was included in majority of their paintings. In India, the people used bright colors and colorful mosaics, which relates to their religion, Hinduism, by depicting their many gods and goddesses. This wraps up the show. Stay tuned for next week's discussion on the Northern Renaissance. Bye!